Okay, so in today's video, I want to talk about popcorn or acoustical ceilings. Now, before I get into how to remove it or how to scrape it off or whatever, I just want to give you some nuances about what it is. So when you come across it and you have to tackle it, you're going to know better how to handle it. Okay, so if you see in another video I did, when I shot the popcorn up there, it's basically water mixed with an aggregate that is sold in powder form, or like these little balls like boba kind of thing. You add it to the water absorbs these little pellets or balls, whatever you want to call them, and they start expanding a little bit bigger, and you add more or less water to get the consistency you want. And then when you spray that texture, you're gonna raise or lower your pressure to try to match whatever is there. If you're starting all by yourself and it's a new spray, then you can do whatever you want because you're spraying it. I don't know a lot about it, like the whole history, but I know it covers a lot. So whenever I scrape popcorn in somebody's house, usually underneath it, it's a level 1 or a level 2. Level 1, it's just the bare tape. Level 2, it maybe has one coat on it, on the screws and the joints. Now sometimes I'll come across a ceiling that has a level 3, which is 2 coats, but that's real rare. So normally after I scrape, I'll go ahead and I'll put at least one more coat on the screws, or 2 coats, whatever. I just bring it up to 2 coats. And then depending how bad the joints are, I might strip in the field. I might just run the heavy side of the butts, or I might coat the whole thing one more coat just so that everything has at least 2 coats on it before I put another texture. Or they're going smooth finish, then obviously I'm gonna do a level 4, whatever I'm gonna do for that. But it just covers a whole lot. So I know a lot of new houses, I mean, you're not going to see it, but you do see it a lot in commercial still. So if you see economical or economy, whatever you want to call it, or budget-friendly hotels, they use it a lot. And it helps, one, for sound, not a whole lot. I mean, it's not like a sound barrier or nothing, but it does help absorb sound a little bit. But 2, again, it's a cheap finish. You're not having to have a finisher go in there and do all kinds of coats and paint and all that. You're just gonna spray it on. So I know we did, I think it was a Radisson by LAX, where they were cement ceilings. And a lot of these hotels, it's just a cement ceilings. They're not gonna waste time framing and putting drywall up and all that. So a cement ceiling, and I think maybe we filled in like the voids where the nails were, or where there was pothole marks from the plywood after it was taken down from the forming of it. But we didn't do any mudding, really. I don't think we did any mudding. The guy just came in there and they shot the acoustic, the popcorn, and it covered it. And then they come in there and they paint that, and it looks like it could be drywall. You don't even know what's under there. So a lot of contractors will use it because, again, it's a cheap way of doing it, but nowadays people don't want it in their house. One of the bad things it has is any house that was built before 1978, is that when they were supposed to have faded it out, but any house built before 1978 should not have, any house that was built before 1978 will have asbestos in it. That's a whole nother video, that's a whole nother thing. I'm not certified or licensed or whatever it may be to talk about asbestos. So I would say find a video on that, or go find an asbestos removal company. If you're not sure, you can take a little test sample. You scrape off a little piece, you put it in the stain. I think Home Depot sells them, Lowe's probably sells them. I think you mail it off to somewhere and they send you the results back to let you know if it does or does not have asbestos in it. Then you can proceed as needed for whatever the findings are. Now, they were supposed to have phased it out, but talking to some older general contractors that I've worked with, they said that a lot of companies kept putting it not only in the acoustic, but also in the mud. They would put it in some adhesive glues that they would use for the flooring. I mean, some companies just kept going until they got caught, I guess. So if it's after 1978, so let's say 79 on, it should be okay. There shouldn't be any asbestos. 78 prior, then you have a good chance of there being asbestos. And there's a whole way you gotta take it down, and you have to remove it a certain way and bag it up. And there's only certain places that you can actually throw all of that to remediate that, right? So again, I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna get me in trouble because I'm not certified, and I'm not recommending that you guys do that yourselves if it is in there. That's just my 2 bits on that, right? And then another thing, another nuance, if you come up against it, is paint it or unpaint it. Right? What's the difference between paint it and unpaint it? So if you saw another video I did, we PVA'd or we primered the walls, but I stayed off of the ceiling. I stayed off the ceiling on purpose because of this reason that I'm going to say. So whenever you come across painted acoustic, you're not scraping it off. You're not. It's just not coming off. It's going to be like if you're trying to scrape off stucco from the side of a house. It's going to make it almost like a cement, even though it's this flaky stuff that it can fall with your hand. I mean, you can push it off with your hand, but once it's painted, nah. So what are your options if it's painted? Okay, so I did a house and the whole house was painted, the ceiling. Well, this was a flipper, so he was removing and changing everything. So he went ahead and he removed all the AC ducts, the duct covers, and he removed all of the light fixtures and fans, ceiling fans that were in there. Luckily, the paint, they painted around all that stuff. Okay, so when he removed it, there was the old popcorn that hadn't been painted yet. So what I was able to do was go in with water, which I'm going to show you in the next video coming up. And the water was able to get in there enough and get right behind it that I was able to scrape it off. Okay, if it wasn't for that, I would have been screwed. Because there's only 3 ways that I know that you can work around popcorn, like a popcorn ceiling, right? How to remove popcorn ceiling if the popcorn's painted. So the first one is you're going to cover it with some kind of board. It could be 1/3, 1/4, 1/2 inch. You're just going to go over the whole thing like you're starting fresh and new, and you'll have smooth drywall when you tape it. Okay. The second way is you're going to skim the whole thing. You're going to just skim it. Skim it with hot mud. You can skim it with regular mud, but it's going to take multiple coats depending on how heavy that texture is. And then the third way is you can try to scrape off as much as you can. You can just try to scrape it off and see what comes down. Actually, I think that's it. I think you just drywall over it or you mud it. I mean, that's basically what you have because you're not going to get rid of all the nipples and stipple. So those are your 2 options. Sorry, so 2, not 3. 2 options. But I am going to show you, this is not painted. I didn't paint it on purpose because I didn't want to have to drywall over this and I didn't want to have to skim this whole thing. So I'm going to show you a non-painted popcorn ceiling removal, how you can do it easy and clean.